What's your emergency?
Welcome back to That Wee Woo Show, a podcast where we watch and discuss episodes of the ABC show 911. I'm Ellen.
I'm Alice.
And I'm Bex.
Thanks to everyone for listening to all of our episodes so far. We're getting into season 2. We're not even a quarter of the way through. I just realised there's a lot of episodes in this season. But we are enjoying it so far, and I hope you are too. If you are enjoying it, we'd love it if you could share our episodes, our social media posts, rate us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and thank you very much to all the people who have already done that. We really appreciate it. This week we're going to be talking about episode 7, which is called Haunted. But first, Alice, do you want to catch us up on what happened last week?
Yeah, so last week on 911, the 118 found themselves the focus of attention from a reporter looking for her big break and a well-meaning exotic animal keeper with an ample supply of baked goods and LSD.
We never really found out what happened to that lady, did we?
I'm assuming she got arrested.
Yeah, I guess.
By Athena in her civvies.
Yeah.
This week, Halloween finds the first responders racing to the rescue at a cemetery, a haunted hayride, and a spooky Hollywood parade. Meanwhile, Maddie thinks she's received a ghost call from a missing hiker. Hen finds herself facing with a life or death situation with the father who abandoned her, and Eddie reconnects with his estranged wife. And for the squeamish amongst you, here's what you can expect from this episode. We have bats. We have a quote-unquote zombie. We have characters who are buried alive. We have a horse that dies. That's a big one. And we have the death of an estranged parent who is in a medical coma and is taken off life support.
Yeah, this episode's a bit of a heavy one. I may have
heavy,
cried a little bit a couple times.
I mean, it's got two sort of halves, really, doesn't it? Like it starts out quite lighthearted, like the Halloween kind of funny, spooky stuff.
Yeah,
and then it just suddenly turns all sad.
Yeah,
it really pushes that it's going to be the Halloween episode, and it starts off with your typical Halloween spooky kind of calls, but then the Halloween sort of themes become a little bit more metaphorical than literal.
Yeah.
And it ends up very sad.
very sad.
For a variety of reasons.
My mum actually stayed at my place the other night, and over dinner I was like, she hasn't watched 911. She keeps asking what the podcast is about. And so over dinner I was like, I'll put on an episode. And so I was like, I'll just play like the next episode so I can watch it and make my notes. And it started playing, and then I immediately turned it off and went back to Dosed because I was like, oh, that's right. Nope, not letting my horse-riding mother see this episode.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Yeah, that's probably a good call.
Yeah, like, hey, this is my podcast. This is a horse dying. Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great show. You should watch it, Mum. She'll be like, what? So we watched Dose instead. She had the best time as a ex-nurse picking apart all the medical stuff.
Yeah.
And then I watched this one and was just like, yep, very glad that I did not show her this one because, like I like when they do more serious, like sadder stuff, but at the same time, I was like, why are you killing a horse?
Yeah, it's always hard with animals, I guess. Like, that's why there's that, isn't there a website called Does the Dog Die or something?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't watch things when the dog dies. I refuse to watch the end of Marley and Me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's even when, like, I'm not relating this to a pet at all, but we were watching The Mandalorian, and they are like, you know, when he first finds, like, Baby Yoda, like Grogu, and I'm like, if something happens to this kid, I am going to freaking ride. It was that kind of thing. Like, little kids and animals, right?
Yes.
If anything is going to happen to any of those, I'm out.
Yeah, literally. Yes. Like, there's so many people dying in, like, these episodes, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's
As soon as it's an animal.
Yeah, but they're
Yep.
just like, no.
All
I'm like,
bets are off.
why would they kill the horse? What purpose did this have besides making me sob like a baby?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the entire purpose,
Yeah,
was to make
clearly.
you sob like a baby.
No, it was to parallel it with Hen's father.
Sure.
Anyway, we should probably talk about what happens in this episode. So just to be cheery, we're starting out at a cemetery.
And we're starting with a Buck voiceover for once.
We are, yeah.
Is this the first Buck voiceover?
I think
Yes.
so.
Yeah, there you go.
It's normally Abby or Maddie, but we're going to get Buck. For a very specific reason, but right now we just have Buck telling us that if there is one hard thing that you learn on this job, it's that one way or another, everyone dies. And for most people, the only thing worse than losing someone is knowing that someday, one day you will. And
That's heavy.
This audio plays as we see a woman entering a cemetery. She's going to visit her deceased parents, who have a conjoined grave. I guess a shared plot. I'm not sure how you would say that.
So this woman talks to her mum and dad as she's sitting there by their grave. She says she wants them to know that she's decided to sell the house. You know, I know how much it meant to you, and she's getting all deep and meaningful with them. And in soft focus in the background, we can see
The dead are coming
figure.
alive.
Yeah, a figure rising from the dirt and shuffling towards her. And she doesn't sort of clock it at all until he's like right there. But we don't get, all we see is this guy like covered in dirt. Like, he doesn't look like he's doing very well.
No.
He's not like a rotting zombie though. He's actually just a guy. But when he puts his hand on her shoulder and she screams.
Oh, and we've got, like, she senses that something's going on and sort of stands up slowly. His hand slams down on her shoulder. She lets out a full, like, scream queen kind of scream as the violins are playing frantically in the background. It's very horror movie.
Very horror movie.
And then they kind of ruin it all by having an actual 911 call where it's just her going, ah!
But see, what I don't... We've said it before that the 911 calls are now just purely transitional because she's obviously screamed when this guy has grabbed her by the shoulder. She then picks up her phone, waits for the operator to say 911, what's your emergency, and then continues screaming.
Yeah, she's polite. Yeah. She has manners. Her parents are right there. Like, you...
I would have imagined that she would, like, as soon as the call connected, she would have been screaming. But that's fine.
We're not supposed to question.
So the 118 get dispatched to the cemetery, and it is now nighttime, so everything is pitch black. And we discover that it was not a zombie, it was actually one of the cemetery workers. He and his colleague were digging a grave when the ground collapsed underneath them. And he managed to crawl his way out of a giant sinkhole that has formed in the cemetery to go for help. But his colleague, Stavros, has not been so lucky. He's still buried alive, hopefully, maybe. It's up to the 118 to find out.
He's pulled himself out of a giant sinkhole, and the woman with the flowers totally did not notice a giant hole in the ground.
I mean, to be fair, it's a cemetery. There are a lot of giant holes in the ground.
But we cut to what the sinkhole looks like, and it's huge.
Oh yeah, it's massive.
I'm very surprised that she did not notice. She's probably too wrapped up in what her dead parents were going to think about her selling the house to worry about what was going on around her.
That's it. So Chim says that the sinkhole's a result of the quake because it shifted everything around. And yeah, apparently it's been 30 minutes since the sinkhole sucked him in. So it was a very quick sunset, I guess.
Yeah, it looked a little bit dark when it was dim when she kind of was laying the flowers and everything. So I guess it must have been late. But he says they're all walking around on eggshells and bubble wrap. which is part of the reason why I was sort of thinking the cement truck thing, or like up on the actual Quake episode. It was like driving that around. I'm like, it's really heavy. This is a good idea. But anyway, yes, they've decided that they don't, like, they need to be careful moving around so they don't fall in and drag a bunch of soil on top of them. And Buck's like, he's been breathing dirt for half an hour. Like, what are our chances here, you know? But Bobby reckons he might be trapped in an air pocket, so...
He gets out his little thermal camera and starts scanning the air pocket, starts scanning the sinkhole, and then does that through sort of dad-esque. He's scanning through, then he finds Stavros. He's like, oh, hello, Stavros.
Yeah.
So they all grab buckets and shovels. You've got Buck and Eddie and Bird, who gets to come out and play with the 118 tonight.
Oh,
he's down in the hole, helping to dig, handing buckets of dirt up to Bobby and Chim, who are up balancing on plywood that they've put around the edge of the sinkhole to try and stabilize it a little bit more. But it's going slowly, and Hen just has enough and just decides, fuck it, there's an excavator nearby, I'm just going to use that.
Yeah.
And I
love what eggshells? What bubble wrap?
Yeah, right?
I just love the fact that she goes for the excavator and the boys just look at each other and just bolt out of this hole because she does not look like she's going to wait for them to get out before she starts digging.
Yeah, absolutely not. But yeah, like, is she licensed to use that thing? How did she know how to use it?
How did the car thief know how to use a cement truck? How does anybody know how to do anything in this show?
So she's just like pulling,
but like she's a government,
coffins and bones out of this
hole. She's a government worker. You can't just use anyway.
For this episode especially, but I think moving forwards, I'm just learning to tell myself it's for the drama. Just go with it for the drama, because otherwise you will drive yourself insane. So for the drama, Hen knows how to use an excavator. And
is licensed to, it's fine.
It's fine.
Good job, Hen. I mean, to be fair, I have a forklift license and no one expects it, so...
How often do you get to drive a forklift these days, though?
Literally, I drove one last Wednesday.
Oh, that's exciting. Then.
I'll drive one tomorrow. I mean, it's the same one. Someone's got to get the deliveries off the truck at work.
Yeah, go you.
Cool.
Well, in any case, the excavator lifts some of the heavy stuff away, but not enough. Like, I was like, are they going to pull this guy out of the hole with an excavator? Like, is this...
Well, I mean, could you imagine that Hen, like, drops the bucket in and then scoops and she takes, like, half of his body?
Yeah.
With the teeth of the bucket as, it just logistically, it's incredibly dangerous to be using the excavator while you've got a guy down there.
Yeah.
Which is why I think she does, like, 2 scoops and then they go back to buckets and hand digging. But they find him in the end. He is indeed in an air pocket. He's wedged under a couple of coffins.
Don't know how he got under the coffins, but sure. Again, drama.
Well, everything's shifted, I guess. Everything's moved. But again, drama. What's the most dramatic thing that they can think of?
So they get him out of there, and Buck sort of has a bit of a fangirl moment to Hen, like saying, oh, that was so badass. You literally pulled a man from a grave. It's like, no, that was you guys with your hands. But anyway, and Hen's like, I just hope they understand. And Buck's like, who understands? And Hen goes, the spirits we disturbed. I don't need that mess following me home. And Buck just like turns around and looks like, I'm thinking, oh no, Buck is going to be so paranoid this entire episode, but it wasn't bad. But as he turns around, the excavator actually then falls in the hole.
Yep.
So it's like, good one, guys. This was great. And then they all scurry out of there like, oh, it wasn't me. I don't know anything about that.
Hen just wanted to freak out Buck when she said, I hope they understand. She meant the city after she's illegally driven an excavator.
Yeah.
But you can't say that kind of stuff to Buck because you know he's going to take it seriously. I mean, we saw him after the full moon episode, or like during the full moon episode. He was convinced that the full moon was making everyone crazy. So you tell him that they've disturbed the spirits of the dead in the cemetery. Yeah, he's going to be, you know, carrying around anything, crystals, and lining his doorways with salt, trying to protect himself.
I'm honestly surprised he didn't like find a rabbit's foot for this episode and just like carry it around just in case.
Yep. Oh man, that would have been such a good crossover. Anyway, title card time.
And when we come out of the title card, we find Hen going into a medical center where Karen is waiting for her because apparently Hen's father is at the medical center, which is a massive surprise to Hen because she hasn't spoken to her father in years, like decades.
Yeah, since she was 9.
But for some reason, he has her current address and contact details in his wallet. And so when he was brought in, the hospital called her. And he was brought in with a massive brain bleed. Yeah. And he's on life support, and the prognosis is not good. And the doctors have pretty much called Hen in to get permission to switch life support off.
So their protocol, if they don't have like someone to say anything, their protocols to treat and keep alive until they can find someone to direct them what to do. Which is
Can you imagine? Hi, Hen. You haven't heard from your dad in decades, and now we need you to kill him.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a rough one. Like, do we... Okay, I'm just going to ask for forward spoilers here. Do we ever see any kind of fallout from this episode again? Like,
from
do
Hen's
we find
father?
out? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay. So do we think that maybe he was planning on getting in touch with Hen, or was he just following her career, like from a distance kind of thing? Or...
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what the intent was.
I think they weren't entirely sure what they wanted to do with Hen after season 1.
I'm just spitballing it here, but later on in the episode, Shannon makes a comment that the longer she was away, the harder it was for her to come back. And Carla says something along the same lines with Abby. She doesn't know how to come back. So maybe it's the same thing with Hen's father. He'd been away for so long, maybe he wanted to get in touch with Hen, but he did not know how to. So he's just following along, waiting for that sign, waiting for that moment, waiting for the right time, the bravery, whatever, to come back into her life, but he ran out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that makes it extra sad.
Because, like, we do meet more of Hen's family later, but I don't remember if we get a backstory on her dad.
Only that he left when she was 9.
Yeah.
I think we get a little bit of... I think we get a little bit of it, but it's not, like, massively important.
Yeah.
Especially not at this point. I think it's just that he was there, but she didn't know about it this whole time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now that this is kind of her chance to get closure with him. So while Hen is grappling with this decision, we're going to cut back to the 911 headquarters where Maddie is taking a call.
Yeah, this man says he's got a bit of an accent, but and we can barely hear him over some static, but he says he is hiking and he fell off a cliff, and Maddie tries to find out where he is exactly, and he says he was on the San Ramon Trail. And Vista Point, Abalone Cove, please help me. And then it just drops out. And Maddie sends the 118.
The feedback screeches and it almost sounds like someone screaming in Maddie's ear and before the call drops. Just really spooky.
Yeah.
So yeah, she sends the 118 out to Vista Point. And of course, it must be a bit of a drive. So Hen and Chimo are talking about their private lives on the way.
As they do.
This is what they do.
What else do you do? Yeah.
When they're going to Coles, that's exactly when you start discussing your personal life.
Well, it's gossip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something to do. Jim can't understand why Hen is like, you know, worried about making this choice for her father. He's like, you make life and death decisions every day for total strangers. Like this is no different. This guy's a stranger to you. But and also the prognosis isn't good. People don't generally recover from a brain bleed. But and Hen says, well,
yeah.
people don't generally survive rebar through their brain either. But then they surprise you. And Jim's like, yes, I'm a miracle. Huh.
I do love that they bring it up regularly. Like there's so many times where, like in shows, characters will die or almost die, and it's like a 1 episode thing, and then no one mentions it again.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, 911 is a little bit guilty of that later
Yeah,
on. But
definitely.
yes,
But
for Chim, at this point in the season, they're going to keep bringing it up. Because it was a very, very important thing that happened to him.
Yeah. Like, we're a full season on from it, and it's just still just like, yeah, okay, rebar brain. And he still has his scar, so...
He still does, yes.
Scar Tracker 2024.
It's still very red, though.
It's still very red.
I'm questioning his healing abilities if that scar is still so red after so long.
Well, it doesn't mean that long, has it? How long's it been?
It happened at, episode 3 of the first season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
But
now episode 6 of the
7, I
second
think.
season?
Didn't when he saw Tatiana, it was
10
only
months.
8 months or
No, 10.
No, it was
Yeah.
10 months.
10 months. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
we're
okay.
going to say it's been about a year.
Yeah. You know, we're all about the medical accuracy in this show.
How
Yes.
long do scars stay red?
So while Alice Googles that, the 118 have arrived at Vista Point. There is no sign of their caller. They do find... was it like a hiking pole or a selfie stick? or
It's definitely
something?
a selfie stick because...
It's a selfie stick?
Because the phone is still attached to it.
Oh, yeah. It's a beautiful trail along the edge of a cliff looking over the ocean. So...
Yeah, the 118 do get a nice little hike as part of
Yeah, there's like...
going out on
I
this
see
call.
some nice...
Yeah, there's some nice
Pacific
drone
views.
shots of
Yeah.
them having their walk.
Mm-hmm. So they send Buck and Eddie over the rocks to try and find the hiker. Chimney's going to get to work the winch again. He always has to work the winch.
Yeah, that's his job.
And he radios in to get recon. And he radios in specifically saying this is Captain Nash T118, except they brought the engine truck. So he should be calling in E118 if he was going to say anything. And it's just, I wish they had consistency in this, because later on he will call in, like later on in the series, other times in the series, he'll call in and he'll go, this is ladder 118 when they have the ladder truck. Or he'll just say, this is Captain Nash at the 118. Why does he have to specify which vehicle he's got? I wish that there, like in the writer's room, that there was a poster up on the wall of this is how the captain of a firehouse calls into dispatch. Please make sure you follow this script every single time you're writing these scenes, because it's driving me bonkers. Okay, I know. I'm done now.
I just read this note of yours, and it said, I need a 911 dispatcher to tell me whether crows identify themselves as their houses
says
or as their
crows.
vehicle. I know, but I read it as crows, and I was like, oh, the crows identify. I mean, they're very smart. Anyway. I
Have
obviously
you
need to
heard
go
when
to bed.
crows talk, though? Because, like, oh my god, it creeps me out every time.
Oh,
They fully sound like old men. They're just like, hey, how you going? It's like, Jesus Christ, did not
Whoa.
expect that out of a bird.
anyway, tangents.
Tangent. There are some beautiful drone shots, especially once Buck and Eddie start rappelling down, and I really hope that they let Oliver and Ryan do that because that looked like so much fun.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I really hope that they didn't force them to use their stunt doubles for that scene.
Yeah. They get down. They can't see their injured hiker anywhere. But they saw $1 million view, which did look very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But they do find something. Eddie notices that there's some clothes or something underneath, like an overhang type thing. And it turns out that it's a skeletal remains.
Yes.
So there is
Definitely.
a hiker, but it's not the right hiker.
They're not their hiker. But while the body has completely decomposed, his phone still looks in pretty good condition. And so Buck immediately jumps to the conclusion that the skeleton, or his ghost, called 911.
Of course he has.
Which, I mean, it kind of makes sense if you've got the ghost whisperer working in the 911 dispatch that she's going to start getting ghost calls. But it wasn't, or was it? I don't know. But even as Eddie is sort of looking at Buck like, you are an idiot if you think a ghost called 911, they hear a man call out for help. And that's the actual hiker that they were looking for.
Yeah.
Who has fallen. He has got a nasty open fracture, which indeed the bone is sticking all the way out. His head is covered in blood, so he's probably banged himself quite significantly on the way down. But when they reach him and they start preparing him to be brought back up to the rest of the team, the hiker, Ian, asks how they found him. And Buck says, well, it wasn't easy because you weren't on long enough for us to ping your phone. And Ian's very confused because he said he didn't call 911 because he doesn't have his phone.
Yep, because it's still on the selfie stick up on the cliff.
Buck and Eddie are like, whoa, what's going on?
Ghosts.
Maybe the ghost did call 911.
It's funny because when Maddie joins, I was like, oh yeah, it's the ghost whisperer, and then they do this and I'm like, seriously, you just when they signed her, they were just like, we have to, sorry, we have to do it.
I'm sure somebody said, look, we've got the ghost whisperer here, it's a Halloween episode, we have to have a ghost call 911.
Yeah, we have to do it, sorry. Yeah, it's terrible, but it's gonna happen.
I actually quite like this story.
Funny, yeah.
I think it's really, it has a, yes, it's a little bit gimmicky, but they work it in with the rest of the storyline really well. It ties in nicely with Athena's story.
If you didn't know she was the ghost whisperer as well, you wouldn't feel like it was on the nose at all. It doesn't feel shoehorned in.
You never got into the ghost whisperer?
No.
Oh my god, I loved that show.
My mum watched it, so I haven't seen heaps, but I've seen bits. And so, when I showed her the other night, I was just like, oh yeah, so that's Buck's sister. She whispers at ghosts. Wait, no, wrong show. And Mum's just like, oh my god, I love her. And I'm like, I know. So the whole time she's just like, Maddie. And I'm like, yes, Mum.
Well, once again, we go to the Grant household, and Bobby has been telling all of the stories as usual. We established last week, I think, that he's a bit of a, dumps all of his day-to-day problems on Athena.
And the kids.
And the kids. So they're carving pumpkins for Halloween, and they've carved heaps of pumpkins. And so when Athena comes in, she's like, why are there so many of them ghosts? And
so many
Bobby
ghosts.
says, they're for Buck. I'm going to put them all over the firehouse because he thinks the ghost called 911.
Oh, it's so funny. But poor Buck.
It's so funny because Like, Bobby is set up as the father figure. You know, he is the head of the 118. He's supposed to be the mature one. You can see, like, Chim pulling this kind of shit. But for Bobby to go, I'm going to carve these pumpkins to look like ghosts. I'm going to use them to rib Buck is just absolutely hilarious.
I mean, why not?
So funny.
That Harry thinks it'd be very cool if a ghost did call 911. And then May poops on his party by telling him that ghosts aren't real. There'd be ghosts everywhere if they really existed, since there have been over 100 billion people who've lived.
Yeah,
So-
Harry launches into this story about a friend of his whose family used to live in this apartment where this little old lady died, and he said the lights used to flicker when they used the tea kettle. And Athena just goes, didn't that building get red tagged after the earthquake? And Bobby's like, yep. It's like, yeah,
Cool.
it was faulty wiring.
Not ghosts, faulty wiring.
Damn it. Get in the way of a good story.
Yeah, and
But Athena is intrigued by this idea that a ghost called 911. And so Bobby explains to her the call that they went on, what happened, why Buck thinks that the ghost called 911. And Athena,
She's pretty
Seems to-
intrigued by the whole thing.
she seems to be pretty interested in this. She keeps questioning Bobby, like, what do we know about the bones? What have you discovered?
I mean, Bobby tells her that they found a wedding band, and they figure that because of the size of it, it was probably from a male. So they at least know that.
yeah, Athena starts building a case. Like,
She's like calling someone to try and find out what happened. And Bobby's like, why are you trying to be a detective here? This isn't your, beat. And she's like, I'm a field sergeant. I go where I want.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you just love doing that, huh? Anyway, she calls up somebody and asks about a cold case and starts, like, getting into it. It's like, oh no, she's on the case now. There's no stopping her.
Nope.
And she just leaves Bobby with, like, this table full of pumpkin. And he's like,
After telling
you
him
want me
to clean it
this
up, she's like pointing at it, going like, clean all this up while I'm on the phone. It's like, I'm supposed to clean it up all by myself? Yes, you made the mess, you clean it up.
You're an adult. Off you go.
all right, so we're going to school.
We are going to school.
I'll let Bex
Eddie.
take this one.
Eddie and Carla are doing a tour of a fancy private school, and because it is fancy and because Eddie wants to set a good impression on the principal, he is dressed in a suit and he looks delicious in it.
Yes.
I believe, Bex, the exact word you use is
Hello, Daddy. I have a thing for a well-dressed man. I do not apologize for that. The principal is not as enamored with Eddie in a suit as I am, and is explaining all of the facilities and all of the wonderful things that they have at the school, really upselling it for Eddie. And Eddie thinks it's all fine, but he just wants Christopher to be happy. He doesn't want to send him to this school. Doesn't matter how good their theatre program is if Christopher's going to be treated as a special needs case. And the principal tells him that all of their children are special, but she can assure Eddie that that would not be the case, and leads him over to a classroom where there is a class doing art projects. But what she really wanted to show Eddie was the young girl with Down syndrome sitting at the table with the rest of the students doing exactly the same activities as the rest of the students, very clearly being included with the rest of the class. And Eddie sees her and he's sold.
Yeah.
He wants to sign Christopher up right now.
He's in. Like, he's got the checkbook out.
Yep. Unfortunately, there's still one more hoop he has to jump through, which is the family interview. Which she's like, well, I'm here. And the principal's like, yes, we've got your information. We've met Christopher. It's all great. Now we just need to meet Mrs. Diaz. And that's not going to be a problem, is it? Eddie's like, oh, no, that's not going to be a problem. Principal walks away. He turns around, looks at Carla and says, that's going to be a problem.
It's definitely a problem.
It's definitely a problem. And while Carla is trying to work out how to get around this situation, you know, I know that Mrs. Diaz is a touchy subject for you. I'm sure that we can explain the situation. You're a single father. We can show them the custody agreement. And Eddie's like, yeah, about that. We're still married.
Bum bum.
Mm-hmm. And again, the drama of this storyline is just completely unnecessary.
Oh, literally, none of it makes sense. None of it at all.
None of it makes sense, but again, I'm just going to breathe. I'm just going to go, it's for the drama. It's for the drama. They've decided that this is how they're going to get Mrs. Diaz into the show, so I'm just going to go with it for the drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, why they would need both parents, yeah.
They wouldn't.
No.
They wouldn't, but I'm not going to rant about it. Instead, let's go to... Is this the hayride that they talked about in the summary?
The hayride? It's a haunted house. Was there a hayride?
Well, yeah, the summary says a haunted hayride.
Did they mean a haunted house?
Maybe. Maybe they have hayrides and then there's a haunted house. But yeah, it's quite clearly
we need
a
an
haunted
American
house.
translation here. Someone tell us what's the difference between a haunted house and a haunted hayride. Anyway, these people are lining up for it, and there's a couple who are in the line, and the woman's like, "Why does anyone pay for this? It's just a bunch of guys in masks." And the man's like, "I'm just paying to laugh at you when you're screaming."
And charming.
Yeah, lovely. Anyway, they get inside, and people are jumping out of them, and I don't know, haunted house things.
Yeah, classic haunted house things.
And then they sort of look up and there's like bats flying overhead, and they're like, wow, these special effects are on point. Except then the bats start flying into some power lines and start exploding into flame and then falling.
Which also makes no sense at all.
No, why would the bats do that?
The bats flying into the power lines, yes, 100% could happen. The bats frying from being electrocuted and falling and setting things on fire, yes. The bats bursting into balls of flames in midair, no.
Yeah, no.
That would not happen.
So, you'll notice, if you're driving and you see power lines, you'll notice birds sitting on the power lines, and you'll notice that the birds aren't bursting into flames.
Yeah.
It's because you need to be touching
the ground,
like something.
Yeah.
So usually it's like if you touch the ground and then touch the power lines, or if you're touching the tower and touching the power lines. But it's also
because the power lines, the current runs in one direction on one wire and the other direction in the other wire. So if the birds are just on one wire,
yeah,
the current's fine. But with the bats, when they're flying over them, sometimes their wingtips will touch both wires, so they will close the circuit with their bodies, and that's how they get electrocuted. Apparently it happens quite often.
Okay.
Yeah, but they wouldn't burst into flame.
They would. Yeah, I did find a news story where a bat got caught in power lines, got electrocuted, its wings fried and dropped, and it set the nature strip alight underneath
gross.
it.
No.
But it didn't, it's not like there was a burning ball of bat flame in the sky.
Actually, yeah. You mentioned that. I do remember seeing fruit bats hanging from power lines because they have been electrocuted because they're big, Fruit bats are pretty big.
Yes.
And if they touch two lines, they'll die. But anyway, these are small bats.
So that part, not without the realm of outside the realm of possibility. The ball of flames is outside the realm of possibility. Yeah. But again, the drama, it looks impressive. All of the bats start falling into the haunted house. They don't actually set anything on fire, though. The danger and the chaos is not from the burning bats. It's from the flying bats that are then flying into people's hair and scratching them and biting them.
Yeah.
I would have thought it would have been the balls of flame,
and this woman catches one in her hands and it bites her.
Yes.
Anyway, Someone calls 911 and says, "The bats are real." Very descriptive.
I did like that one.
So naturally the 118 are the ones who have to deal with this mess. Bobby asked a guy who is wearing like a skull mask thing if anyone was bitten. And because Hen says that 10% of bats are rabies carriers, and so we need to know if anyone got bitten because they might have rabies.
Yeah, because mask face is just like, oh, like, are you worried about vampires? It's like, no, rabies. Like, oh my God.
But most of the injuries were from the stampede out of there, apparently, so he's not sure.
Yeah.
And Bobby tells Eddie and Buck to go and try and get the power back on, which may or may not be a dangerous thing to do, depending on if there are any bats still, like, caught in power lines, I guess. But anyway, they get it working, so that's fine.
And of course, Chim is not having a good day because Chim does not like any calls that have to do with animals.
Not at all.
And specifically tonight, his concern is that rats and mice should definitely not be growing wings.
Yeah. I love that.
I don't know how to tell him that bats are not actually rats with wings, but
They're enough of a rodent in his mind.
That's it.
he's not comfortable. If he could sit this one out, he definitely would. But yeah, he does man up and go with Bobby into the haunted house looking for anybody who might have been left behind. Skull Mask Guy did say that some of the cast members were still trapped in their rigs, and I have serious occupational health and safety questions about that. Surely you should not be putting cast members into rigs that they cannot easily get themselves out of in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this does look like a bit of a, temporary festival setup, so OH&S kind of goes out the window a little bit with those, I think, or not taken into consideration, but...
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm just like, no, they should be able to get out very quickly without anybody else's help if the need arises. They don't find any cast members. They do find the woman from earlier in the scene who literally jumps out at them, spooking them all, and tells them that her boyfriend is back there and that he ran face first into a wall. And I do love that the camera then pans down and we see this bloody decapitated head just lying in the straw at their feet. And Jim just deadpan goes, I'll say he did.
Yeah, it was great.
But they do
That's
find
not his
the guy.
head. Yeah, he's behind the guillotine. He didn't actually get his head decapitated.
And they ask him the standard questions. Do you know what year it is? 2018. Yep. Can you tell me who the president is? And he's like, do I have to? It's like, yeah, you'll be fine. Back in those days when everyone was embarrassed to know who the president was.
I distinctly remember being in hospital one day having that question asked, if I remembered who the Prime Minister was, and do I have to say who the Prime Minister is?
Well, back at that time, it was when we had a different Prime Minister every week, and it was like, who is it again at the moment? I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a question that you can answer because no one is going to be able to answer it.
Yeah. I don't even remember who the Prime Minister is now.
Oh.
Albo.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, cool. Glad someone knows.
He's the Tim Walz clone.
He's been the Prime Minister for a while, so,
honestly, ask me who my regional manager is at work. That's a better question, because...
Well, I mean, lately we hear more about US politics than we do about Australian politics anyway, so...
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, we're going back to 911 headquarters, where Athena arrives and sees Maddie. Maddie's really excited to see her. She's like, what are you doing here?
After me, in the last episode, saying, oh no, Maddie and Athena never interact again. after they go on their ride along. Here we have them in a scene together. But in my defense, Maddie's like an excited puppy because she's a Buckley. She's like, hi, Athena, friend. Hi, are you here to see me? And Athena's like, yeah, I'm not here for you.
Yeah, go away.
I want to talk to your tech guy.
Yeah.
Because she wants to hear the 911 call that the ghost made.
Yeah.
Of course.
Which, like, fair.
I'd want to hear a ghost call too.
Right? Same.
But actually, she wants to know if there were any calls made referencing Vista Point around the time that our skeleton guy might have fallen. They've traced, got his cell phone records. They've kind of traced to when he might have disappeared, and she's hoping that if she gives Terry enough of a specific time frame, he'll be able to find something. And God bless Terry, because he does.
Yeah.
He finds a call from 2011, which sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, it's the same
familiar.
Because it's
call. It's identical, right? Like, it's the same call.
it's exactly the same call that Maddie got.
And Maddie's like, oh, wait a minute. That sounds a lot like pull up my call from today, like yesterday or whenever it was. But when they try and play it back, it's just static. It's nothing.
It's literally all it is static.
You can hear Maddie's side of the call,
Yeah.
but the ghost side of the call is just static.
Yeah, so they get the whole, so a ghost called 911?
Yeah. Buck is convinced that this means that the ghost called 911.
Oh, I love this. I absolutely love this interaction. I laughed so hard because it's so stupid. Because Buck just goes, so it was a ghost. And Maddie just goes, why are you whispering? And I was just like, yeah, dumbest line of the whole show. I'm so happy it was included. Okay, let's go. Like, they didn't even waste time. They were like, you know what? We're going to have to talk about the elephant in the room. She was on the ghost whisper. Let's just say ghost and whispering. Like, we're done. Like, that's it. Pack up, go home. We're all happy. But like, it doesn't even, like, it's so Buck to be like, oh my God, don't let the ghost hear me.
I wondered if they were going to bring up that perhaps he thought Patricia was in the room with them. Since she died in the house.
Yeah.
And he's whispering so he doesn't offend Patricia. But no, they didn't go that direction.
No, they're just making fun of the ghost whisperer.
And then Maddie was like, what do you mean she died in the... I've been living here for weeks and you never said?
No, it's okay. Maddie's moved out now. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so Maddie said that a bunch of the calls had static and it was just a glitch in the system.
Uh-huh.
And Buck's like, yeah, but like, how do you explain it was the exact same call? And Maddie's like, well, it sounded like the same call, but like a lot of the calls sound the same.
Yeah, Maddie's trying to rationalize her way out of this, and Buck's just like, no, you and I both know it was a ghost.
Yeah, it was a ghost.
We're gonna go with that. It was a ghost.
Yeah, I'm done. It was a ghost.
And then they actually accidentally segue into not talking about the ghost because Maddie says, the wedding ring, someone has been waiting for New Year's for all this time. And Buck says, I heard somewhere a person is legally declared dead after they've been gone for 7 years. And Maddie's like, that's so awful having to admit that you've lost hope.
And Buck tells her that 7 years is a long time. They probably lost hope way before that. And he sort of looks around the apartment and says, no one can wait forever.
Yeah.
And Maddie's face just goes, oh, we're not talking about the dead guy anymore.
Yeah, this definitely isn't. Yep, okay, yep.
Yeah,
cool.
okay.
Hang on, big sister mode active.
She's very carefully sort of choosing her words here. Where she's like, yeah, hope's tricky because, at some point it will keep you going, but it can also hold you back if what you hope for is never going to happen. And Buck is like, yeah, but it's hard to know the difference. Are you giving up too soon? Are you hanging on too long? And Big Sister Maddie's just like, I think you do know. You need to admit it to yourself.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, that was kind of a short scene in the end. Like we're going back into what we had last week with these weird short scenes again. But anyway, there's a lot to cover in this episode too, I guess.
There is a lot to cover in this episode.
Now we have Hen and Karen breaking into her father's house. I mean, they have keys.
Is it breaking in if you've
so
got keys?
I guess theoretically they let themselves
and
in.
And if the owner's in a coma. Like...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is like a standard thing people actually do, but have a copy of their will just lying around in their house. Like, they've come to the father's house in order to find a copy of his will.
Not just his will, his living will, which, so that's basically like what would happen if I was still alive but not. So like what...
Hen's basically trying to find something that says that she doesn't have to turn him off.
Hen's trying to find like something that makes her not responsible.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't find that. What they do find after they start going through all of his belongings is proof that he's been following Hen's career, because they find an article that the Times did on paramedics that had a photo of Hen as the photo for the article, which is apparently 3 years old.
Yeah.
So Hen realizes that her father has been in LA very close to her, following her career for at least the last 3 years without saying a word. And that scene did feel very short, because no sooner does Hen have that realization that we're jumping back to the Diaz residence, where Eddie is taking a deep breath and bracing himself to open the front door to reveal Shannon. And everybody welcome Shannon to the show.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
So Shannon is Christopher's mother and Eddie's still wife.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's an awkward hug shared. There's a very cute popsicle jack-o'-lantern hanging on the front door. And then we cut to Christopher's room. So Shannon's like going through everything. Like she's looking at all this artwork on the walls. She picks up a framed photo that Chris has on his desk, and it's Eddie and Chris taken at the firehouse.
Yeah.
Which is super cute.
Yeah. I'm surprised Buck isn't in it as well.
I think he took the photo, let's be
yeah, I'm going to say he took the photo.
And that the photo of them all together is in Eddie's room. So Shannon asks if Christopher's asked about her, and Eddie says not in a while. But he's had a lot to keep him busy. Like they've moved, he's got a new school, a new city, new people.
And Shannon's like, yeah, sure, but he must have been really shocked when you said that you were leaving Texas. I sure was shocked when I heard you were leaving Texas. And Eddie's like, oh, Lord, here we go.
Yeah.
And all he gets out is Shannon, and then she's like, okay, so tell me about this school. Because that's why she's there. Eddie has called her so that she will agree to do the family interview to get Christopher into this fancy school.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly fancy, and not a kind of school that Shannon ever thought that Eddie would be interested in, but he starts reeling off all of the advantages for it and how he thinks it'll be good for Christopher.
Yeah, like the class sizes are smaller, they're 10 kids instead of 30. Mentions the art studio because that seems to be the only room that they saw. Do we know anything about the school? Do we think it's a Catholic school, knowing that Eddie is Catholic?
I mean, it
or
could
do we
be.
think it's just some sort of prestigious
I think
private
it's
school?
Possibly just a private school.
They didn't mention anything about that in when they were visiting that we saw, so...
I don't think the private schools in the US are, like I know here in Australia, the private schools are the religious schools.
Yeah.
You don't really get secular private schools, but I think secular private schools are more common in the US. Let us know. friends of the podcast.
Yeah.
Drop us a comment, tag us on Twitter, let us know, private schools, are they always secular? Are they always religious? Is it a mix?
Yeah,
what do we think the
'cause-
chances are that Christopher's going to a private religious school?
Because, yeah, here, like, the private school... It's interesting, though, because, like, we're not a very religious country compared to America. But all our, like, private schools are ones that are linked to...
Some kind of religion.
Some kind of religion. But, like, they're... Like, even though they're linked to religion, they're not really... Like, religion's not a big focus, as far as I know, anymore.
It depends which school you
It's
go
still,
to.
Yeah.
It's still a focus. But I do know that while the school might be linked to one particular religion and students have to do, like, religious studies, their religious studies are more widely encompassing than just Bible study.
Interesting. But yeah, it was just something I thought, because Eddie's... I don't think Eddie's religion's even really brought up in the earlier seasons.
No, but I think it's taken as given.
Yeah.
Because he's a good Mexican boy.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be Catholic. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so Shannon wants to see Christopher.
She wants to talk to him to make sure that he wants to move schools. And Eddie doesn't think that's a good idea. And they get into a fight.
Yeah, Christopher hasn't seen her in almost 2 years. And then we get a bit of the backstory finally. By this stage, I'm like, okay, someone tell me what is going on here. Why has she been gone for 2 years? But apparently she was looking after her sick mother. And she, like, Eddie didn't want to leave Texas at the time. She left to look after the mum, and then she never came back. And now Eddie and Chris have moved to LA, which is apparently where Shannon was living. So, and they never got in touch.
Bring it up later.
Yeah.
That, like, Eddie moves 30 minutes from his ex's house and says nothing.
Yeah. But anyway, she says that I needed you to be around. I needed a husband and a co-parent, and I got a life alone in Texas with a baby. And I'm like, hang on, we're talking about something else now. What is going on here? But she was upset because he left. He was in Afghanistan, like he got deployed. And yeah, bit of a mess.
It's so
a big mess.
messy.
It's so messy. Like,
when we first meet Eddie, he's very like, I'm a single dad. Chris's mother's not in the picture. She left. We're very much unreliable narrator from Eddie that his wife, Chris's mum, did a bad thing. And now here she is saying that, like, I might have done a bad thing, but you did a bad thing too.
Yeah.
Neither of us are the heroes in this situation. Both of us equally fucked up. But she, like, mic drops and walks out of the apartment before Eddie can say anything else to her.
Yeah, like, I can't remember when it's mentioned, and I don't know...
Ellen, cover your ears for a sec.
It's not real, like, it's alluded to here, but we get, like, proper confirmation, but I can't remember when we get the proper confirmation. But basically, like, they had Christopher, who had, like, had his issues as a baby.
It all comes up in Eddie
And
Begins.
It does, yeah. And
Yeah, because I literally just watched that episode, and that's season 3.
Instead of being there, Eddie is just like,
Shush.
Oh, so we're just not going to talk? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's alluded to here.
Let her discover it, because, no, but, like, we get this, and then the story sort of slowly rolls out over a couple of episodes, and then eventually we're going to get Eddie Begins, where we see it in full.
Right,
so
okay.
let's let Ellen discover it for herself.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to have a girls' evening in with Athena at Athena's place. Hen is visiting. The kids are out with Michael, so Athena has a house to herself. So sure enough, she's going to get pissed with Hen.
As you know.
Athena's telling her all about the cold case that she's working on.
Yeah, because the case files are all over the kitchen table. Hen can't help but to notice what Athena's doing.
Yeah. And she's also questioning it. She's like, don't you have people to do this sort of thing? And Athena's like, yeah, but I want to do this.
But she does explain why she has taken such an interest in this cold case, and we get we get Athena's origin story as to why she decided to become a police officer. Mm-hmm. And it was because when she was a child, a little girl in her neighborhood went missing, and nobody ever found her. Nobody knows what happened to her, and it haunted that little girl's parents. It broke them, destroyed them. And Athena promised herself that when she was old enough, she was going to become a policewoman and she was going to find that little girl.
Yeah.
So I think she has seen this skeleton and the wedding band, and she has taken a personal interest in this case because she knows that there is somebody waiting for this guy the same way that those parents were waiting for their little girl. And she might not be able to find that little girl in this moment, but she can find this guy's people and bring them closure.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this, but it is future episode stuff, so...
Yeah.
I'm just going to be mad over in a corner about it.
At least they're somewhat consistent with the beginning origin stories here, unlike with Hen.
Yeah, like they're definitely more consistent. But yeah, I'll save my thoughts. That. Yeah, okay. I'll be ranting in a couple seasons' time. If anyone needs me, I'll be in the Angry Dome.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, it's going to turn back on Hen now anyway because she's thinking about her father, and apparently he's the ghost that's haunting her brain. We get a few episode title drops in this section. Mm-hmm. She's saying that why it shouldn't be such a struggle. She's hoping that he'll wake up so that she can meet him finally, which is so sad. But yeah, she never hated him enough to feel good about pulling the plug on him. So she's struggling big time with this one. Oh, and then Athena says this line. She goes, now at least you know he was a man haunted by his demons and channeling his own angels. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Athena? Like, why was he channeling? What? No sense.
I don't... it does make no sense. Thankfully, the non sequiturs get interrupted by Athena's phone, because even though it's late at night, the forensic teams are still working and they've got a hit on the skeleton's dental records. Yeah. And they've linked him to Alex Armando Perez, who has here's a jacket. He had been in prison. He literally got out 6 months before he died.
Yeah, 22 years old.
Because the Diaz family are going trick-or-treating. And while Carla has her whole contribution to dressing up is having like bubble headband with jack-o'-lanterns on them, Eddie has gone all out.
He sure has. Or at least his arms are all out.
Thigh holsters and an eye patch.
Oh, damn.
Carla goes, are you some kind of pirate? But he's Snake Plissken from Escape from New York, Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I also do not understand this reference. But Eddie's looking good, so not mad.
I have not seen
No, I
Escape
don't think
from
I
New
have
York.
either, but yeah. I was looking this up earlier. It was a 1981 movie and it was set in the near future, in quotes, of 1997. So, I don't know. Apparently they turned the whole of Manhattan into a prison, like a high security prison. And this guy, Snake, was going to be sent to that prison because he'd been trying to break into like the national... I can't think of the word.
Treasury?
Yeah, something like that. And but then the army bring him in to try and the president has been kidnapped and he has to try and rescue him from New York. So, and if he rescues him within the allocated time, he will be pardoned. I'm like, wow, this story is So it's like a
Sounds so
sci-fi thing, but it's set in 1997, and I don't know. Now I kind of want to watch it just with a couple of glasses of gin or something, and like we did with like my sister-in-law and I watched Stonehenge Apocalypse, which is that Mission
I
Collins
still need to watch that.
Oh my god, it is
so good. It's so bad.
It's a terrible
so
movie, but it's got like really good actors.
terrible.
Like the acting is really good, but the script is terrible. So anyway,
I think Misha's even said that like he thought it was like this fully serious thing, so he went at it really seriously, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, no. If you watch it while you are drinking, it's a lot better.
Excellent.
Yes.
So I recommend
I
it.
can.
But anyway,
I can attest to that.
I have it. I just haven't seen it. Anyway, yeah. So this movie came out before I existed.
yeah, yes.
I'm just so thrilled for Chim because finally somebody's going to get his pop culture references. Eddie knows this movie. He knows what Chim's talking about every time Chim opens his mouth.
Excellent. But they're not going trick or treating with the team. They're just doing it in their neighborhood with Carla. So
yeah, he taking Christopher trick or treating.
Yeah, but yeah, like I'm with Carla. I have no idea what he's talking about, but he looks cute, so I approve.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Although she wishes that it came with a smile, and it's like, oh come on, she's Carla. It's rough.
Rolling my eyes so hard at that line.
But Eddie is doing a little bit of pouting. He's like,
he's so pouty, but it does segue into him confessing it's like Shannon and I had a fight.
so pouty.
Yeah.
Carla gives him a bit of a pep talk about this, and obviously he's told her all about this. Like she knows a lot about what happened.
Everything.
Yeah. So obviously Eddie wants to have her back in his life, and he's like, no, I never said that. And she's like, dude, like really? You moved 30 minutes away from her, and you know, LAFD are the best in the country.
Yeah, LAFD are the best in the country, and he doesn't say it, but you know, and my grandmother lives here, and my aunt lives here, and you know, it makes sense that I live here, and it's like, Carla's not buying it at all.
Yeah, this isn't Carla's first rodeo.
Definitely not. She tells Eddie that what is best for Christopher is for his mother to be back in his life, and Eddie's really hesitant. She's like, what if she screws up again? I'm like, sir, you were not innocent in this situation. Don't put it all on Shannon. And Carla simply says that both of them, both he and Shannon, have grown up a lot, and Christopher needs his mother. At which point Christopher walks in dressed up as Logan from the X-Men, complete with adamantium claws and giant sideburns. And he is adorable.
Yeah. Especially when Eddie goes over to him and they go, "Arr." They make a little pose.
Flex their muscles together.
Yeah.
So cute. Do you reckon if this episode came out like this year, we'd get Chris's Wolverine and Eddie as Deadpool?
Oh god. I don't know if Eddie at the moment Eddie feels a bit too uptight to be Deadpool. I think you got to be a
Buck
certain.
would be Deadpool.
I was going to say,
person.
or would we get Buck as Deadpool?
Yeah.
And Christopher
Buck would
and
be
Buck
Deadpool.
would be matching, and Eddie would just be this random pop culture reference that no one knows of.
I don't know. It is very interesting that that's the look that Logan has in 2018 with Wolverine and Deadpool just having come out, with Logan going for the traditional X-Men yellow and blue suit.
Yeah.
So Logan had just come out in 2017.
So he's not like specifically X-Men Logan, he's Logan.
Yeah.
Like the Wolverine Logan. Okay.
So Eddie was probably like, no, you're going to be comic accurate, kid. And Christopher's there like, what's a comic? And he's like, shut up. Just put on these sideburns. Shut your mouth.
All right. Are we ready?
No.
Oh, okay. We can.
Like you with the bugs last week, I might just bow out of this.
Okay.
Well, we can talk about this scene in very general details if you like, just to get it over with, because it is very sad and feels unnecessary.
It starts off so well because we start off at like a rave. Although I think this is the parade that they were talking about because they're kids here, so I don't think it is a rave.
No, it
but
did
they've got,
feel like a rave to start with, and then the kids are
you've
there,
got
and
like
you're like, what?
the UV lights and the big spinning light show, and you've got the EDM music, which is the Halloween theme, which just plays over most of this scene, and I was honestly loving the vibe of
Guys.
that. That's so cool.
Guys,
Yeah.
this is Winter Pride.
Yes.
This is what now? What am I missing?
Beat sheet reference.
Okay.
Yeah, they have Winter Pride, but it's like at Halloween.
Yeah.
And it's in
Okay.
August. Like it's in autumn. And they're like, what? Anyway, yep. This is Winter Pride. It's fine.
I can see that. Yep. Anyway, random segue into Destiel again. What are we up to?
Segue back.
Everything's
to
a
the parade.
segue into Dean Winchester beat sheet. Everything.
Everything for you.
Especially when I need to cope with this. Okay, I'm bowing out.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Because there are mounted police at this patrol.
Yep.
And we meet Officer Dan and his trusty steed, City Slicker, who are patrolling the parade. Unfortunately for City Slicker, there are also fire breathers.
Yeah.
With the one dude who's like dressed up as the literal devil. He's got red skin and horns. Who, and I'm just going to go through this pretty quick, who ends up setting a drag queen's hair on fire when they walk into the path of the fire breather while spraying their massive beehive with hairspray or some kind of glitter spray. I'm not entirely sure what they were spraying. No. But it was flammable. And it lit them up like a Roman candle.
Yeah. And the crowd goes crazy, runs away. The horse sort of rears up and kind of throws the police
not to
off.
disparage the horse too much, but maybe it wasn't suited for crowd control if
I think normally the horses they use for that are massive horses for one thing, and they're very well trained.
And they're bulletproof.
Yeah.
Like, not literally bulletproof, but, you can throw anything at them. And they literally
Too soon, Bex. Too soon.
To make sure that they can withstand anything.
Yeah.
Not literally bulletproof.
The other thing to note is that there is an interaction with a little girl dressed as Dorothy before this all happens. And when the crowd starts to stampede and City Slicker...
Oh my god, this is literally Dean Winchester beat sheet because Dorothy is at Winter Pride.
Oh yeah, she is. Oh my god. Anyway...
Anyway, so
Dorothy offers
City Slicker gets...
the horse an apple, so we have a bit of a bonding moment there.
Yes. And when City Slicker rears up and throws Officer Dan off his back before bolting in panic, rather than going after his horse, Officer Dan uses himself as a human shield to protect Dorothy from the crowds.
Yep.
So then we get multiple 911 calls. People are calling in about the drag queen that's on fire. They're calling in about some guys have got burns all over their faces. They're calling about a horse that's running around. And then the traditional red audio line that we get to signify that it's a 911 call switches to blue. And we get a call for an officer down.
Yeah.
And the officer is City Slicker.
Yeah.
He's down. He's got burns on his face, I guess.
Yeah, he's got blood on him anyway and a broken leg.
They don't show the leg, but God love Buck. He runs up and sees the horse and he's like, I don't know if the air boot's going to fit on the horse. I can try and rig something for him.
Yeah. But Hen sort of realises what's happened here and it's not looking good. Basically, they are discussing how much chemicals they have on the truck and whether it's going to be enough to get it done. And
It being, to put it bluntly, they need to put City Slicker down because horses do not respond well to massive injuries, and it will be a kindness to end his suffering now than
and then they
try and
all
fix him.
stand around while it's done, and it's so sad, and they have sad music.
It's so sad because Hen can't do it.
Yeah.
And everyone around her realizes that Hen can't do it, so Bobby has to step in and do it for her.
Yeah, she's struggling.
And all the LFAD and LAPD officers form like this human chain around City Slicker to honour their fallen colleague.
Yeah.
And Dorothy sort of forces her way through and
I'm like,
comes
who
over.
the hell let the kid in?
Where are your parents?
Why are you here? do not let the child see this.
But the child comes up and Officer Dan kind of clings to her as he's sort of sobbing, you know, he was my friend.
Oh.
And I was trying to watch this to do my notes while my kids were in the room.
Oh.
And they kept looking at me strangely because I've literally got tears rolling down my face.
Yeah.
As I'm watching this scene, it is just so sad.
Very sad. Anyway, yes, like the tone of the whole episode is now quite low from here on.
Sad.
Because then we, Athena has to go and let this. They found the family of the guy who fell down the cliff several years ago.
Yes.
So she knocks on a door and has to tell the woman there that her husband, his remains have been found, and she is just sobbing as well. Everyone's not having a very good day. This is on Halloween night. It's like they've got a bunch of trick-or-treaters at her door and Athena comes in to tell her. And I'm like, why are they doing this now at this time of night or whatever? But apparently...
I'm guessing that Athena's gone, she's waited so long.
Yeah, apparently
she needs to know
they need
now.
to tell people as soon as they find anything out, basically. So there's no waiting.
Yeah.
No,
and this woman is absolutely distraught because she had, to harken back to Buck's earlier conversation, she had kind of never given up hope. She had always known that something was wrong, that her husband had not run out on her, even though everyone around her had told her that he had gone back to his old ways. And then she has to suck it up, even though she wants nothing more than to collapse into a puddle of grief because her son, who looks about the right age to be Alex's kid, wanders in a cowboy uniform, ready to go trick-or-treating.
Yeah. He's like, Mummy, can we go now? She's like, yes, okay.
So sad.
She gives
I think
Athena
what
a
sets,
big hug.
from memory, what sets her off even harder is Athena hands over Alex's wedding band that she's either stolen from evidence or got permission to return to his widow.
Yeah.
So she gets to help Alana, who is Alex's widow's. She got some closure. Athena might not have closure, but this woman does.
Yeah, at least she's given someone closure.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's two very sad scenes, one after another.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the next day or a little bit later on, and we're in daytime and we're back at the fancy private school, and you'd think this might be a little bit more of a lighthearted scene, but no, we're still going to get punched with the emotional feels. Because Shannon has just finished her interview, and again, I know it's for the drama, but why did they interview her separately? Why didn't they do a family interview with both her and Eddie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Doesn't matter.
It is weird.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
She's had her interview. Eddie is stalking her, waiting for her to finish her interview because apparently the school called him and said, oh, yes, we're going to be interviewing your wife today.
Yeah. Like, what? Maybe it is a Catholic school.
Oh.
And they're just like, oh, got to play happy families.
Yeah,
or husband might not know. Got to tell the husband what the wife's up to.
Yes, you'd want both of the drama. It's for the drama. It's for the drama. So Eddie hurries over, and Shannon reassures him, like, I didn't tank the interview. It's fine. Christopher's gonna get in. At least I don't think I tanked the interview. And there's this moment. have you seen this thing that was going around TikTok? Like, it's the things that would be absolute red flags if a man did it in real life, but it happens in a book.
Oh my god,
and
yes.
It just makes you swoon.
Yep.
No, but yeah.
So Shannon
Yeah.
So Shannon goes to open the car door. Eddie slams it shut, ripping it from her hand, and then steps between her and the door, preventing her from leaving. And if a man had did that to me in real life, he would be on the ground.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I would have just kneed him in the balls.
Literally.
I watched Eddie do that and went, oh.
To be fair,
Okay.
he wore both a suit and a shirtless vest. I mean, a sleeveless vest this episode. You are weak.
I am not my Lord's strongest soldier, not in this episode.
And then he gives a bit of a
But
pouty,
he's-
like, why
But
did you leave?
he needs to talk. Last time she did the mic drop and walked out, it's his turn to talk to her. He's making sure she can't leave, so he gets the final word.
Yeah. Yeah, and he wants to know why. Why did she leave? We always thought you'd come home, but you didn't. And this is when she says that the longer she was gone, the harder it was to come back. And he must hate me. Chris must hate me. And he's like, what are you talking about? And she's now having some mum guilt about...
Yeah, she thinks that it was something that she did either during the pregnancy or something, that it's her fault that Chris is disabled. And she tried so hard to make up for it, to try to fix him. So she did all this research. She was finding new treatments, new therapies, and she wore herself into the ground, and she needed a break, and so she left. And she's absolutely breaking Eddie's heart at this point, and he just hugs her and reassures her that it was not her fault. And she's like, yes, I know that, but I don't know it, if you know what I mean. And Eddie reassures her, Christopher loves you and he misses you and I've missed you. And Shannon's like, yes, I missed you too. And then they're kissing.
Yeah, immediately kissing.
And then Eddie kind of rips himself away and like, we shouldn't be doing this. We can't be doing this. But then realizes this is his wife. He's not doing anything wrong. She's
into it.
Obviously still into it. So they go back to kissing again.
Yeah.
And the principal is standing at the door going, interesting. Makes a few notes
Literally,
on Christopher's file.
They're just in the parking lot of the school.
At the front of the school. Yeah.
Like, all the students are just, like, looking out the window. And the teacher's like, hey, all 10 of you, get back to work.
It's in Winchester Beach. No, hang on, they don't do that in Pride.
I don't... hang on.
Well, they do at Winter Pride, though. Anyway.
He just wants to break free, you guys.
We're going back to Abby's house, and where Carla has come to visit.
Yes.
And she's having coffee with Buck.
Because Buck needs somebody who was on Abby's side to talk to.
Yeah, or at least
Everyone
someone who knew Abby.
Yeah, everybody's on his side. Everybody is telling him to do what's best for him, but he needs... If he can't talk to Abby, because Abby's not talking to him, he needs to talk to the next best thing, and that's, for him, that's Carla. Because apparently Abby is actually talking to Carla.
Yeah. She knows more about what's going on than Buck does.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she still cares about Buck, but she's not ready to come home yet. And
At least not to this home. Yeah.
Buck's like, what do you mean? But apparently her brother's been asking her to come and stay with them. So Buck's like, I feel like this whole time I felt like I was being haunted by the memory of her, but I'm the ghost. When I should have, I'm lingering here when I should have moved on a long time ago. We're like, finally, the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Poor Bucks.
Yeah. He's so sad. And to compound the sadness, we're going to jump back to the medical centre where Hen gives a monologue to her father, which she basically tells her father that she forgives him It's a long speech where she tells him that she used to write letters to him and those letters became like a diary.
Yeah, they didn't know his new address, so she could never mail them. But she still wrote about it. She wrote about Cabbage Patch dolls and about the day that she saw her best friend and realised she wanted to kiss her. But she didn't know him, so she can only guess what he would want. And she doesn't think he'd want to live like a ghost in a hospital bed, so she's going to forgive him. And she lets the nurses step in and turn off the machines.
And as that's happening, we return to Buck's voiceover. And Buck is continuing from the opening voiceover saying that we are all haunted by the ones we've loved, the ones we've lost, by the choices we've made, and the choices we still struggle with. And as he's talking, we see not only Hen watching as her father is taken off life support, watching as the machines flatline, we're also seeing Buck writing a letter. And the voiceover that we're hearing is him narrating what he's writing. He is writing all of this to Abby. He's writing her a letter.
And while he's reading out the letter, I Found by Amber Runn is playing in the background, and I sobbed like a baby because...
Yeah. Beautiful
Back
choice.
to the sad bits.
He tells Abby that our lives are like a series of ghost stories, and sometimes all we can do is turn the page and let go, and that's what he needs to do. He tells Abby, I'm not sure if you're ever going to come back or how he's going to feel if she does, but he can't wait for her anymore.
Yeah.
She is his ghost story. And we see, as he's saying this, he's packing his bag. And I just want to break the mood for a moment and wonder how long he was with the SEALs that they taught him how to pack like that. Because Buck does not strike me as the kind of person who would naturally neatly fold all his clothes into perfect squares and set them into piles and then very neatly lift them and place them into his duffel bags, which is exactly what he's doing. It's very military-esque.
Yeah, like he would absolutely just shove it all in a duffel bag and be like, yep,
Yeah. Yep, just grab and shove.
Because that's what I do.
And we also get confirmation that this is a letter for Abby because we see the front of the envelope that the letter goes into, and it's addressed to Abby Clark, care of Matthew Clark, somewhere in Arizona. He finishes up the letter by saying that, telling Abby that she is his ghost story. She was the amazing spirit that blew into his life and turned it upside down, and then she vanished into the night. And being with her made him a better man, and that he will always love her for that, but it's time for him to figure out who he is without her. Oh. And as he says that, he's carrying his bags to the door. He looks around one last time, turns off the light, walks out of the apartment, and the episode ends with him shutting the door behind him.
It's a really powerful visual. Like, that was...
It's literally, he shuts the door and the entire screen goes black and the audio cuts off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, the whole time I was rewatching season 1, like, this was the scene that was in my head.
Yeah.
With Buck closing the door on...
Literally closing the door on them. Yeah, really powerful visual.
Rewatching it, though, I'm like, okay, so, like, if the end voiceover is the letter, was the start voiceover the letter too?
Yes.
Because
yeah,
it's a little bit morbid going, yeah, everything dies. It's like, okay, Buck, calm down.
But it kind of leads into everything dies and they become ghosts. Yeah. So I went back and reread the opening voiceover, and it does track.
It does track, yeah.
Join together.
It's just like, considering she just lost her mum and then went away, like, Buck, maybe leave out the death stuff. Like...
So, Ellen, if you remember when we did our season 1 wrap-up and Alice and I were very adamant that Leonie and Lily had to stick to season 1 only when they were talking about Abby.
Yeah.
This is why, because I think this is the time where everybody started to hate Abby.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the fact that she's been apparently speaking with Carla.
Yeah, she
and has
basically
just
abandoned
ghosted
him, yeah.
Buck, yeah.
Yeah, they've dragged her storyline out for 7 episodes now, stringing Buck along for 7 episodes. This is really where the hatred of her kind of solidified.
Mm.
Yeah, because like when I first watched season 1, and obviously Abby went away, I was like, yep, okay, fair enough. Like Abby's been through a lot of shit, blah blah blah. And then I got to this, and I was just like, yeah, no, fuck Abby.
Yeah, it's definitely a choice. Because obviously they can't bring Abby back to have full closure because Connie did not sign on for another season. But to keep her still in Buck's life for 7 episodes into the season...
it's kind of mean.
It's definitely a choice.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said, like that visual of Buck closing the door, like that... I couldn't have told you what episode it was. I couldn't have told you where it came in the season. But I just remembered him shutting the door on Abby's apartment. And yeah, it stuck with, like, it's a very, very powerful visual.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have thoughts.
Hit us.
Can we just mention that, so Buck has been in this, like, fake relationship for the entire season, right?
Yeah.
Eddie has been single the entire season. They bring Shannon back, and Eddie kisses her immediately before Buck breaks up with Abby. Yes. Coincidence? I think not. They're just like, oh shit, people are shipping these. Oh, quick, put one of them in a relationship, quickly.
Oh.
I mean, I don't think that's what because I mean, this is 7 episodes in, so I think they would have filmed this before they released season.
I don't know. It's hard to, because 911 now has a very quick turnaround. Like, very quick. Like, they've just started shooting again, and it comes back next month.
Yeah, so
last season they wrapped filming on the season final 2 weeks before they aired the season final.
It's usually an episode a week. Is a week and a half to shoot one episode.
Shippers move fast, man. Shippers move fast.
So, but if you're going by that, so they would have been, by the time season 2 started airing, they would have already had couple of episodes in the back. I don't think that
Shippers move fast.
I really don't think I think that both of these storylines were established and we're going to be done this way regardless of what the fans were saying.
It's an interesting theme to notice throughout the show.
Okay.
That as soon as one of them's single, the other one isn't.
This happens more?
Oh, this happens a lot, yeah.
I mean, when you've got 2 incredibly attractive young men in your cast, they're going to be the romance draw.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can't have them pining after an overseas girlfriend for an entire season.
Oh God, no, yeah.
That's not sexy. You need to have Oliver having some sexy romance times, and the same with if you've got someone like Ryan Guzman, you need to have him having the sexy romance times, and which gets shirtless scenes. Which thank you very much 911 for indulging me in that.
But yes, it's just an interesting note that the same episode Shannon comes back, Buck becomes single. Just make note.
We'll have to keep track of that.
That's it. Get your spreadsheet out.
Episodes. I have noticed some other sort of parallels with those 2, but I won't say anything yet because they're spoilerish.
Yeah.
But there are parallels with those 2 that keep coming up. It's not Destiel and Cockle's level of insanity, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing all about it.
Oh yeah, the derangement is real.
Great.
Yes.
So yeah, really sad episode.
And not as, and like I was saying at the beginning, not as scary as you would expect for a Halloween episode.
No, it just more turned into sort of heavy themes, didn't it?
Yes. Everyone was haunted, but I think they did it in such a subtle way that it wasn't hitting us over the head with everyone being haunted by their choices and by the ghosts of their past.
Yeah, like I didn't feel like I needed to drink every time they said the word haunted. Like it flowed very well.
Yes. I will just say that this entire discussion, I've had the instrumental from the Taylor Swift song playing on a loop in the back of my head. All I can think about every time I hear the word haunted.
Yeah.
Speaking of, brain rot.
Valid.
All right, what have we got to look forward to for next week then?
Next week, you would almost think that we're skipping a couple of months up to Valentine's Day. But we're not. It's November 5th, which I looked at that date and winced.
That's the day. Yeah.
The summary says, love hurts. Buck jumps back into the dating scene, but fears he will return to his pre-Abby scoundrelous ways, while questioning if Maddie and Chim are more than just friends. Our emergencies next week are going to involve a woman who goes to great extremes on top of a freeway overpass to get the attention of her husband, a couple involved in a car accident on their wedding day, and a first date that goes down the toilet.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
Oh, I just remembered which episode next week is. Okay, I'm not going to cry again. This is fine.
Oh, no, you're going to cry.
I'm absolutely going to cry.
Oh no, more crying.
For your triggers for next week, get your tissues handy. We have multiple car accidents. We have multiple threats of gun violence. And we have very sad death by natural causes.
Oh, I can't believe it's only season... Yeah. Like, episode's only season 2. If anyone asked what season that was, I probably would have said, 4. Didn't realise it was this early.
Yeah. It all starts to blur in together. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to let us know, or if you have any thoughts you'd like to share, there are lots of ways that you can do that. You could email us at contact@thatweeboshow. You could find us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Tumblr at thatweeboshow, or you can drop us a comment at our website, which is funnily enough also thatweeboshow.com. You can also find show notes and transcripts for this episode and all of our previous episodes on our website, as well as links to where you can find us on social media or where you can listen to our episodes. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time for episode 8, Buck Actually. Bye.
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 911 is a fictional show, but many of the situations portrayed happen in the real world too. If any of the topics we've discussed in this episode have affected you, please know you're not alone. You can call or text numbers in your country for help. Just Google crisis support in your location to find out the number. If you enjoy our podcast, you can help us out by leaving us a review on Spotify or your preferred listening app, and by sharing our social media posts. Find out more at thatweeboshow.com.
I'm so sorry, did you guys hear Autumn bark at me?
No.
Vex is halfway through and Autumn just comes up and goes, "Ruff." I'm like, what? So I'm trying not to laugh
Autumn.
the whole time.
Did I not say that correctly? Do you need me to do it again?
Just the attitude, I was like, what the hell? What's the matter?
It'll probably come through on your track and I'll be like, oh, there it is.
I'm patting her to shut her up, but I'm just like, what the hell? Oh my god.